So welcome. We're going to move pretty quick. Hopefully you got the handout this morning. There's two versions of it. One is organized in the sequence we're going to deliver it, which would be kind of nice to have, right? The other one's kind of random, and you have to search and find it while we're giving the points that we're going to give today. 50 ways. In fact, Harvester Ed, there's more than 50 ways on that handout. I think I counted 64. Harvester Ed and I just couldn't carve it down any less than that. So let's get going. Time's running, and let's get rolling. So really, our purpose today really is to help you provide ways for you to make more green. Now, you could say that make more money. You could say cash, profit, income, net, yield, windfall, return, revenue, make a killing, proceeds, coffers, dough, capital. And out here in Southern California, mas moolah, right, Harvester Ed?
Got it.
Wow, holy smokes. So we're going to go through 7, 8 categories here, and we're going to give you some highlights in each of these areas that we'd like you to take a look at. And these are areas that, listen, some of these areas you got to go it, and that's good. That's called affirmation. And a lot of these lessons, when you listen to webinars and seminars and things like you're listening to today, affirmation is a good thing. The other one, you might learn a couple of things. We hope, that's our wish, you learn a couple of things. And more importantly, at the end of this, we'd like you to come out of here with maybe one major thing, one thing you're going to work on. And for you overachievers, and I know there's some out there, Harvester Ed, maybe as many as 3, and you super achievers, maybe 5. You know, we would call these, in the EOS system, we call them rocks. In our areas, we call them key areas of focus. And then we have secondary areas of focus. But we really, our wish here and our purpose is really for you to glean out of here today's presentation. And we're going to rock and roll. We're going to move pretty quick. We're pretty famous for moving quick, huh, Harvester Ed?
Got it.
We have a lot of content and we move fast. So hang in, get your handout sheet, make some notes there. You know, it's nothing better than writing a note here and there. And then we're going to entertain questions as we go along. If time is running short, we'll let you know. We'll be available afterwards to drop some questions on, and we'll answer them. The whole crowd will be able to get those answers. All right, we're ready. Buckle up. So Harvester Ed, let's start off with, give me a K, give me a P, give me an I. KPIs.
You got it, Bill. One of the problems that many landscape companies face is they don't know what they don't know. They're not tracking what they should be tracking. But Peter Drucker said, he's the famous management guru. If you haven't read about Peter Drucker, you should. He's got some incredible books out. But he said, what gets measured gets managed. What gets managed gets improved. So just by purely managing and measuring, it automatically gets better. And that is a fact. So try that, okay? Now we're going to talk about 8 different KPIs that we think are pretty important, okay? Number 1, the most important, safety. Now, that indicator right there is less than 1. In other words, 0. You don't want any major safety problems in your company. You don't want anybody getting hurt when they want to feel safe when they come to work. So that's a key one. The next one is your key team member retention. You should really track the retention rate of especially your managers, and I would track your foremen. We know that crew people are churning all the time, so at least track them and see if you can keep at least 90%. If you're not, you need to concentrate and focus on how to stop the people leaving. The other one, of course, is customer retention. You should be at least 90%. Most companies are in the 94 to 96%, but track it on a regular basis, okay? The next group that we have is...
Harvester had one thought there on the safety mod. That's a safety mod rate. That's your mod rate, not the number of accidents. So
okay,
less than 1 is you want to get down to the 0.7, 0.66, something in that area. Above 1, you're having some issues. So we use it as a mod rate. Not all states measure the same way. So I just want to make that comment.
Thank you, Harvester Bill. The next one, the 4th one, is your gross margin. We are fanatics about gross margin. We're going to talk about it later in the talk as well. But overall, when you put all your company all together, your gross margin should be 50. I'm going to tell you really quick, what's your gross margin? It's your direct cost. It's your labor, materials, labor burden subtracted from sales. That's it. Labor burden, materials subtracted from sales. The remaining number should be at least 50%. Every department's different, but overall, they should be 50. Revenue growth, you should try to grow a certain amount every year, and we like to say 15. As the bigger you get, of course, the percentage may go lower, but do the best you can to shoot for a rate that's really going to help drive the company. And of course, quality. You don't want to grow the company and not have quality. So we have the Quality Counts program. And in that program, we try to keep our quality, which is rated digitally for every property. We try to keep that within 85 to 90. If it's lower than 85, you have a problem with quality. If it's higher than 90, usually the problem is you're not making any money because you're spending too much time on the jobs. And the next, your accounts receivable. This is a big problem with many companies that we work with. They're not tracking the people owe the money. Hey, that's what it's all about, right? Your customers expect so much from us. All we expect them is to pay on time. That's it. Pay on time. So if it's over 60 days, please, folks, start making phone calls. Actually, I tell my clients to start making phone calls at 45. You should be sending statements out and then calling after 60 and make sure you're tracking it. And here's another key point that I made note of. You should have one person in the company that is responsible for that. One person. And you should be working with that person every single week to review the money that's overdue. Because without the cash, and we know cash is king, you're going to have a problem. Then you're going to be borrowing money, so it's costing you money. So get the money, right? Harvester Bill, show me the money. Next one, of course, is net profit. Many ask, well, what should the net profit be? And I would always say that, well, at least 10. Some companies are 8, some less, some 12. I've got companies running over 15% on millions and millions of dollars. I have one company that's around 20 million, and they're over 15% net. So you can't say, well, we can't do that. Well, you can do that. It's just a matter how efficiently you run your company. And lastly, the last slide in this KPI area. That is the last slide. Okay.
Just to comment here on your receivables.
Yeah.
Really key, very important. Billing on time and billing accurate. So there's no excuse from the customer. And on recurring revenue, if it's a recurring revenue, you're billing it consistently the same rate every month. We like the bill at the beginning of the month you provide the services. In other words, September's invoice should have gone out the 1st of September, maybe the last week of August. Some of our clients are doing that. And so, some of you are nodding your head, I can't do that. You can do that, and we'll help you do that. We have a class on that as well.
And to add to that, Bill, that all your enhancement work, if it's over a certain number, it should go out every week. Build it out every week. Like if it's over $1,000, a lot of companies build out at the end of every week. See, so you're not letting it wait. If it's under a certain number, then you can wait to the end of the month. That'll help your cash flow. All right, go get them, Bill.
All right, thanks. So get culture. Culture is really at the centerpiece of the organization. So it's a critical part of your organization and will be a big part of helping you make more moolah, as we say. It's really defined as shared values of the organization within all your team members, shared belief systems, shared attitudes, shared goals of each player. Even the guy that's mowing the lawn or putting the plants in the ground is connected to the ultimate goal of the company. So make sure everybody understands all of these shared values and shared, right? And that creates alignment, and the power of alignment is amazing. It's the vibe. If you really look at it, culture is the vibe or the personality. Every company has a culture, whether you define it or not. It's how people treat each other in good times, and in particular, when there's hiccups or there are boo-boos out there that we make, we aren't seeking blame, we're seeking resolution and fixing it and getting through it and learning from those lessons. So culture is really at the centerpiece. It's the heartbeat of your organization. A healthy culture, your people work better, and they work more. They work harder. They achieve more. They love working for you. They're passionate. It's not like Sunday night they're going, oh man, I gotta go back to work. They just can't wait to get back there. As far as your company's concerned, This is one of your best recruiting tools and one of your best retention tools, period. And it's proven study after study after study that companies have strong, positive cultures will outcompete the ones that are weak. Does that make sense? I want to say that one more time. Positive cultures that are energetic, positivity all over the place. And you don't want to be Pollyanna-ish, but you want to be positive energy. And so what we highly recommend, and I know some of this may sound antiquated, but really, you have to have a vision that, as Ed and I always say, it needs to inspire people to aspire to be better and to grow, and maybe even perspire along the way, right, Harvester Ed?
Got it.
It's this awesome vision. Then the mission is what you do every day, how you move this thing forward. The vision is really kind of, if you heard the why from Simon Sinek, so it's somewhat relatable. Why are we even exist? What are we doing here? So that'd be a great book to read that starts with your why. And then having the core values. And what we like to add is success behaviors. How do we behave with each other? We have a whole list of success behaviors. And if you're interested in learning more about those, we'd be happy to share those with you. Let's move to leadership, shall we, Harvester Ed?
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, leadership is very important, of course. You started your company most likely, and you've grown it. You love to do what you do. You've hired people and you're growing your company. But the best thing you could do is to be a visionator. In other words, have a vision for what you think that company should be like in 20 years, in 25 years. I remember Bert's boss a long time ago in Valley Crest, Bert Sperber. I asked him one day, I said, Bert, what do you want your company to be? What's your vision? He said, oh, that's simple, Ed. He said, that's to be the premier landscape company in the United States. And he did it. He did it. He was just shy of 1 billion with a B dollars. So that's pretty incredible. So you have to set that vision and then share it with your people. The next thing is, as a leader, you need to surround yourself with the right people. That is key. I notice a lot of my clients over the years, they're reluctant to do that because they said, yeah, but Ed, they cost too much money. Well, guess what? The right people may just cost a lot of money, but it's going to be worth every penny, because now you have a foundation to build your company with if you have the right people. Okay. And of course, the next is to have a 3 to 5 year plan in place. You don't get that by accident. You get that by sitting down with your people at least once a year. And that's, even if you're a small company, sit down for a day or 2 days and think it out. You need to have a plan, okay? And you review the plan, the strategic plan. And by doing that, you're thinking out how you're going to get to where you're going to go and where you're going to go, and set your goals on getting there. That's really, really key, okay? I know I was in business 30 years and probably, 12 years passed and I didn't do that. But then I realized from consultants I worked with and from the reading I was doing that a plan is absolutely necessary. It's good to sit down, get away from everybody, sit down and figure out, where you're going, what your market's going to be strategically, what kind of customers do you want, what kind of people do you need. That's all part of it. So if you're not doing that, do it. As a leader, it's your responsibility. Okay, this is one that's near and dear to Harvester Bill's heart, is having an annual 360 review. Is that right, Harvester Bill? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's usually getting input from all the people that surround you. It's 360. So people are direct reports, maybe your outside stakeholders or advisors, consultants, and there's a series of questions each of you answer to give feedback to the leader. So we give you, the leaders, the owners, organizations, you're giving performance reviews for other people and you're doing all this other stuff. It's time for you to get one. And we're not going to do the 360 at the end here, but we're going to give you a tool that can measure your leadership skills. And we want you to take it. We want your people to take it as well. But the 360 review is a pretty sophisticated process. Very few companies use this. We've used it at Valley Crest. It was very awakening for you, for a person. I had one perform several times on me, and I learned a lot. You get feedback, and it's positive, constructive feedback. So we highly encourage a 360 review for sure, especially for you leaders and owners.
The next is practice continual learning. Uh, I do that. Bill does that. My goal is to read one book a month. You see behind me? Those are a collection of books. There's over 500 there that I've been reading and collecting over the years. And that's one way to do it. You don't have to do it just by reading, though. You can listen to the blogs now, the podcasts, and you can have Audible. You listen to books, and you can go to conventions. All these things, just continuously learn about your craft. Really, really key. And of course, another one is work on more and work less. So start working more on your business and not in it. I can't say that enough. Too many owners are working in the business. They're running into they're orchestrating the business themselves. They're running machines, and they're handling jobs that they could easily delegate out. So if you're doing that now, please stop. Analyze what you're doing and see if you can get someone else to do that job. And our last slide is that leaders are curious, and plus you want to move from supervisor to manager. And I have this quote here. This is from the book First Break All the Rules. This is by Marcus Buckingham and Kurt Kaufman. This is one fantastic book. First Break All the Rules. A manager focuses on turning individual talents into performance by setting clear expectations, creating systems for accountability, and developing people's strengths. That's what a manager does. A leader's different. Leaders create a compelling vision of the future. See, I told you before, vision. They create that. They inspire people to follow them to fulfill that vision and foster a sense of shared purpose. While managers ensure people get things done right, leaders focus on ensuring that the right things are done to drive the organization forward. Okay. So there's a big difference between managers and leaders. Now, when you first start your company, you're doing both. You're a manager, you're a leader. But as that company grows, hire managers to run the operations, and you be a distinctive leader and drive that organization, lead that organization to growth and prosperity.
Yeah, and part of this on versus in is really a function of time and where you spend your time. So one of the things I would challenge you right here and now, each and every one of you, where are you spending your time right now? Look at your schedule. How much of it's scheduled, what percentage, and where are you spending your time that's booked? And you're going to say no to something else. This is all predicated on Stephen Covey Quadrant 2 time management, which is a very fundamental common sense process that I use and would encourage you to use as well. All right, so that's a good stuff there, Harvester Ed. So we put leaders and culture together because they work harmoniously, right? The vision and the vibe of the company, it all starts and stops with the leader, and the centerpiece is that culture. It's really the heartbeat of the organization. But listen, I got to tell you, this is it, guys. I'm going to give you a harvester alert right here and now. You are on now alert. The number one way to make more green, or Mas Mula, or all those other things I said at the beginning of the show, is have the right people in the right spot, doing the right things right, and treating them right. And guess what? You'll get the right results. So as many of you know, I've spent a great deal of my time recruiting at Valley Crest. I worked in the HR department. I was VP of HR for 2 years when we had about 6,500 employees. And part of my mission was building a recruiting program, performance management systems, and training and certification programs. So I spent a great deal of time on there. I even wrote a book, Harvester Ed, The Harvest Way for Recruiting and Hiring the Right People, not the wrong people, the right people. So I'm going to this is really, Ed and I gave this portion right now. You're going to get the very abbreviated version of a 4-hour seminar that we've given. Oh, I don't know, a couple of years ago. We had 86 companies attend for 4 hours.
We did in Las Vegas, Bill, with that same talk.
Did we? Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty famous, huh? I guess so. So I'm just going to just hit some of the highlights here on each of these components of the people program. You got to go out. Actually, Pop quiz for all of you. Where do you start on recruiting? Do you go out and recruit and go find people, or do you work on retention? Okay, time's up. The answer is retention. Okay. You want to close the back door before you open the front door for new employees, or people are exiting faster than you're bringing them in. You've got an issue. So that's a whole nother dilemma. So I'm just going to walk you through the sequential order, but not necessarily the priorities areas. Ed?
And you know what, Harvester Bill, there may be a way, you know, to help find those right people that's right in front of us.
Well, there is, and I'm going to go over that just a little bit. But let's start with a couple things. One of the things on finding people, you better know what your needs are. You know, you need to know what they are now and what they are in the future. When you do your planning, you should plan for each year based upon revenue, because we all know nothing happens without revenue. Predicated on revenue, what your people needs are going to be for now and for the future. So we call that a people map. So even if you have blank positions right now, you should know where you need to recruit. You need to have what we refer, our number one recruiting tool is a referral rewards program for existing. Your best people helping you find good people. And that should be monetary, and it should be fairly significant. And then maybe for your larger companies, have an HR internal recruiter. We also have a virtual HR department head person at Harvesters D here at the Harvest Group. But listen, you have some options here. You can outsource the selected positions. You can use agencies. We've used those in the past. We have 3 or 4 agencies we work with. And then we have, here it is, drum roll please, Harvester Ed. Team Engine.
Hey,
You can use all the social media in the world, but they combined all that, and their focus really, and I'm not just saying this because they're a sponsor, I'm saying this because we really team up with some, no pun intended, Team Engine is a great team member of the Harvest Group. And they really focus on workforce people, the foreman and below. And that's the biggest turnover of all the companies that we see. That's your highest turnover rate. And they really work about finding them, onboarding them, engaging them in English and in Spanish, regular texting. It is an amazing system. So if you aren't using Team Engine, we highly recommend it. So that's part of the finding. I'd say referral rewards is probably the best recruiting. In my book, I list 15 ways to find other people. But one thing's for sure, ABR, folks, always be recruiting. You got to track the people. Now, the question is here, why would I on earth would I want to come to work with your company versus somebody else's company? You better have some good attraction pieces in there. One, fundamentally, you have to have a competitive compensation program. It has to be competitive. So know and learn what your competitors are paying and what the fair market value of people are. We like to use career ladders. There's 3 positions for each, 3 slots on a ladder. So it's like a beginner, intermediate, and advanced, say lead man, crewman, foreman, and then senior foreman. So there's 3 levels so they can move within the one position. So career ladders are a very good attraction. Training and certification programs. Love, if you show people that you're willing to invest money and time and energy, that's an investment that helps attract people. And I'd say one of the best ones is your culture. It's clear vision and core values, and the people exhibit that, and they feel the vibe when they're there visiting. So that's a great way for attracting people. If you aren't doing some of those, you really should be. How to keep them. Okay, so let's keep them. What the heck, right? Instead of having exit interviews, why don't we have stay on interviews? What the heck? Wouldn't that be a good idea? I think so. So I would say I'd schedule at least for your higher level people, at least quarterly, a stay on interview, just to touch base. How's it going? Your new people, when you onboard them, you should be touching base with them weekly and assign a buddy with them. We call it the 10-15 report. They spend 10 minutes thinking about it, 15 minutes to go over it with you. Really answers 3 questions. How's my morale right now, 1 to 5? What can you do to get it to a 5 or keep it at 5? What can I do as your supervisor or as a company to help you get to a 5? What have you learned since last time we met? And what recommendations do you have for the organization? So that's keeping them is getting them engaged, encouragement, and really just involvement. Harvester Ed?
one just quick thing. I agree with all of that. It works exactly what Harvester Bill's saying. But one very important thing, a key member of a company just gave notice this week to one of my clients because they were not challenged in their job. So that's really key. Make sure when you're talking to your people that they're challenged. Otherwise, they get tired and they just say, oh, I just go hum, I'm not learning anything here. So think about how to challenge your people as well.
Yeah, you bet. In my book, I wrote that, they're being bored, not special assignments. There's those overachievers that need some other stuff, some more juice, right? You should do an employee survey at least once a year. We have a pretty nifty survey that we conduct, and we actually do it rather than just they fill out a form. We actually ask them the questions because we can listen to their tone and texture of their voices and how they deliver the answers. So you could have a third party do that. I wouldn't have their boss do it because we're going to ask questions about their boss. So we highly recommend an employee survey at least once a year. So grow them. What it really is, once again, the career ladders, training certification, have team building. We see a lot of breaking bread on LinkedIn. Hey, we're having a barbecue for these guys. We're throwing the water out to them on the hot days. That's good stuff. Breaking bread together is a commune thing, and it's a great thing. You should be barbecuing for them and serving them because they've served us. So growing people, finding them, getting them on, attracting them, you got to find them. Why would they come to work? There's a lot of companies out there. What makes it so special? And getting them on board. We see very few programs that are good, solid onboarding programs. So there you go, folks. That's the most important money-making tip we can give you today. It's the people that surround you, and there's groundwork. You could have the best systems, best standard procedures, best programs, processes, all that kind of stuff. If you don't have the right people, it won't happen. You can have the right people and they can figure it out. So let's move over to customers, shall we? Harvester Ed, it's all yours.
Fantastic. Okay, so now that we have the right people, we can take care of those customers, can't we? But what customers? So first of all, we need to make sure that we have selection criteria. In other words, we just don't take any customer. Well, you might do that in the beginning, but as you grow, you want to narrow down the type of customer you have. How do you do that? By location, by size, and by market type. So like location is not too far away. I've worked with companies that have, they've got this little job over here that takes 2 hours and it's an hour and a half from their shop. Whoa, what in the world are they doing that for? Either sub it out or get rid of it because they're not going to be making money on that one. Okay, so location is number one. Generally speaking, within 30 to 45 minutes of your shop is the best. Creating density is what helps you make money. It reduces windshield time, and then it keeps the momentum going. That's that. Number two is size. You want to make sure that it's the size you want. Although, this all depends on your market. Some companies prefer, in the residential side, some prefer small ones because they charge a minimum and they make more money, okay? But generally speaking, you have to decide what size is it? Is it small, medium, or large? Is it HOAs? Just what is it? And market type, I got ahead of myself. HOAs would be one. Are you a high-end residential company or are you a commercial company? If you're commercial, then it could be, corporate, could be industrial, it could be apartments, it could be, offices. So there's many different types on the market side in commercial. In the residential, I would say, there's really two. You've got the very high-end residential and you've got kind of like the median end. I had clients that make money on both, but right now the ones that create real value for your company are the ones that are working in high-end residential. Those are the ones where build value and they're saleable, okay? Because you need to think about that too. So have a selection criteria, write that up, and try to follow that. And that is what you do in your planning session. That's part of it. All right. For as far as customers go, retention, renewals, and referrals, okay? Retention. We already talked about 90%. That's a minimum. I mean, really should be much higher than that. So on the retention side, what are you doing to retain your customers? I think it's all about communication. When I had my company, I spent my time, with those top 25% of my best customers. What did I do? I walked their properties personally. I phoned them. I took them to lunch. I communicated with them by emails and notes and letters. Okay. I let them know I cared. That's the key. If they know you care, they'll stay with you. It's like, it's just a natural thing. All right, that's retention. The next is renewals. On the renewal side, hey, if you're not getting your renewals and you're not charging more money on those renewals, you're going to lower your gross margin. We're going to talk more about that. But it's very important when you get renewals that they're happy before the end comes, right, of the contract. So what's the best time to start thinking about renewals? The day you get the contract. Okay. So you want to think right along that whole time, what does the customer think of our company? You could do surveys. You could do formal surveys. You have Survey Monkey. It's so easy to do it today. But like for me, I took that top 25% and I was asking them, taking their pulse all the time to make sure they are totally 100% happy with our service. So let the renewals not be a surprise. Think about that in advance and help your people to do that as well. And referrals. We get most of our great customers by referrals. Do you have a rewards referral program? If you don't, you should. I don't care if they give you a referral and you don't get the job. You should still be sending a note to that people thanking them. And the other side, if they are, you should be rewarding them with gifts. That's really important. And then once a year, going down to lose the losers, once a year, you should be, looking at that bottom 10% and deciding whether you're going to raise that price way up or drop them out and make room for better customers at the top. Okay. And the last section here is build relationships with your customers. That's how you keep them. Okay. Now, when you first start, they're vendors. They treat you like a vendor. You're just nobody. Okay. Landscapers are a dime a dozen. But what you want to do is move them to a trusted advisor. They're beginning to trust you and your opinion. Okay. They pick up the phone and talk to you. Now, moving along, once they get to know you, build a relationship, then you become a partner. Okay. And if you're a partner, they're not going to do something without checking with you first. They're not going to renovate an area or not do work or do work without consulting you first. And then, of course, your raving fan, they talk to everybody about you. They love you. Okay. They fill out the surveys on Google and all of the other surveys they can. They talk to all their friends and they refer you. They're fantastic. But ultimately, you're an evangelist. Now they're preaching about you to their friends, to their other peers. And if you do that, then you can really expand your business and make your customers happy. Right, Harvester Bill?
You bet. Great. Good stuff. So we're going to talk about revenue. And as we say in the business here, nothing happens without a sale. So we're going to give you some tips here in the area of marketing and sales. So you certainly should have a marketing program. Marketing is really the mindset to your potential customers and existing customers so that when they think landscaping, they're thinking the name of your company or the name of the person that's working with them. So that's certainly an element that many people forget to have in their business. I don't know what percentage, worldwide, 2 to 4% of revenue, but it's probably less than that in our industry. But certainly marketing is a big part of it. Estimating and pricing. This is a key component to successful revenue, making sure that you have a production rate for your company for each of the tasks that you normally provide. And this should be tested and retested because new equipment comes out there and does it faster, better, and easier. We have autonomous mowers. Doesn't need very much guys to push the lawnmower anymore, right? So maybe that's a different time element. So making sure there's only really 3 things on estimating is, we always say, and you guys from the Harvest Group, we call it, there's only 3 things. Know your cost. The second thing is know your cost. And guess what the third thing is? Know your cost. When we talk about cost, Harvester had referred to earlier, direct cost is really your workforce. Plus he says burden. I say that's payroll taxes and worker compensation under the banner of burden, and then materials, and then occasional specialized rental equipment might be a cost as well. But primarily it's the workforce and the materials, and really get down on it. And then We'll talk about a little bit more in depth a little bit later on how to do the estimating and pricing. We have some tips for you in that area. Selection criteria, we mentioned that earlier. You should know when to say no. At the very beginning, you're taking on any job you can get. What the heck? This is called what it is, Harvester Ed. But you need to know when to say no and some indicators. I've had 5 contractors in the last 3 years. They're slow on their payment. They have a decision-making process that's just crazy. The specifications, the expectations are nuts. So whatever. We have a selection criteria we developed over the years as part of the Harvest Way Academy. It's one of the tools that we offer up. And then Ed talked about, hey, we have all these guys doing all sorts of things, keeping the customers happy, making the operations, working safely, efficiently, effectively, blah, blah, blah. And then we want them to sell extra work, or they sell extra work, but they sell more contracts. We're saying, hey, you should have a salesperson. I know you're a smaller company going, yeah, as the leader, you may be acting as the salesperson, but we think that's a great investment, especially for recurring revenue and recurring business with customers. That's your sales machine. At the first, it's expensive because it's got to get the funnel built up and get their boots on the ground. But we think that's a great investment on how to make more money. We talked a little bit about the marketing program. Part of that is attendance of the associations, getting to know people, helping them learn about what you can do to help them be more successful, make them look good to their bosses and to their stakeholders, and make their job easier. How can you get that message out to your target? Ed's famous program, the 2 at 200 campaign, Harvester Ed. Great program. This is really more of a long-term process within your zone of where you want to do business. You go out there and physically go out there and scout jobs you want to be taken care of. You don't take care of them now, but you want to take care of them. And you do a little scouting, we call it recon, and then you try to do some qualifications, and you touch base with these people in a non-obnoxious way, in a positive way. And if and when there's ever a problem, they know who to go to. You're number 2. You're not the incumbent. You're not taking care of it now, but they're going, oh, who's been really nice and been helpful and not too obnoxious as a salesperson? Oh, it's Ed. Let's call Ed, right? And then we call it referrals. For your best, ripest, making the most money on is referrals from your existing customer base. So maybe Susie's the property manager, or Bob, and he knows Larry and Fred. That's another compadre in the business, and they get the introduction. We call it infiltration methodology, and this is your low-hanging fruit on where to get new work. So that just wraps that part up. I know it's been short. Once again, each of these areas are 2 to 3 hour webinars we present, and we have them in our library, don't we, Harvester Ed? If you go to our website, you can sign these up. So let's move over. Oh, wait, I'm going to do this one too. 2 in a row, Harvester Ed. How about that?
How'd you do that?
Really is. There's 3 things about operations. If you look at the big picture at a higher elevation, you want to work safely. Step number 1. It's not fun if and when there's a challenge here on the safety thing. I'm not talking, accidents and people getting injured, really not a good thing to have happen. Yes, we all know that's an easy thing to say. Even within safety, we consider breaking things, breaking windows. Your weed eater hits a rock, it never hits an old Buick. It hits a brand new Tesla or a Mercedes or something, right? They didn't have the guard on it, didn't have time to fix it. Those kinds of things. The things that concern me more on safety is people driving vehicles, and are we assured that they know how to drive one of those and stop one of those, right? Efficiency is really the budgeted hours, accomplishing the work at the desired level, the customer expectation within the budgeted hours that you put on your estimate. That's the efficiency. Then the effectiveness is really the measure of quality, which we have what we call the quality counts program, where I actually go out there. I was a quality control director on several of my accounts, and I'm going back to one in October, going all the way back to Nashville, look at some more jobs, Harvester Ed. I do a quantitative measurement. I count weeds and dead plants, folks, and we want to get to an 85 to 90. People expect 100 sometimes, but they don't want to pay for it. And if we can achieve the 85 to 90, most times we're pretty good there. So these are best practices. These are the best practices that you must have in place. We really highly recommend. That's consultant speak for you really should have these in place. Go back and look at these if you think you have these in place, and see if you can tune them up if you have them. If you don't have them, get these in place. 1, safety program. We talked about that a little bit, right? There's plenty of apps out there. There's lots of programs. NLAP has a good program. There's plenty of technology out there to use on this as well. Job sequencing, folks. If you follow our program on job sequencing, you're going to gain 2 to 4 points on your gross margin. Right now, gross margin's got to go pay for all the overhead, which is about 40% on average. So 60% of 2 and 60% of 4. What's that? A point to 2.5 points down to the bottom line if you job sequence correctly. That's getting dispatch, routing to the job at the best route. And the big point is when you're on the job, who does what and what order and how much time is allocated. That is critical. Job sequencing, I should have put this in red, Harvester Ed. This is a harvester alert. Job sequencing is money. New job startup, if you have the right customer in the first place and you start the job up magically, I mean, really nice, and it's just Jedi clean and beautiful, I tell you what, if you have the right client, that opens up their pocketbooks. They get their checks out. What's a check? Do they still write checks? I don't think they.
They do. They do.
They just they'll send you the money. It really does. If you have the right customer, a new job startup, you want the people to say, "Wow, we should have picked these guys. What are we waiting for? That was a good decision." So, new job startup should be a system you have in place and well executed. It should be at the end of 90 days on any job, especially bigger jobs. It should score a minimum of 85% on the quality count score. Ag Hort program, what is that? What the heck is that, Harvester Ed? That looks at when you apply, how do you apply, where do you apply, chemical applications to make more money, be more efficient, more effective. One of the things that we would recommend, one of our sponsors is TrimTech from EcoScience, right?
Rainbow. Rainbow.
Yeah, it's a great product. It's a plant growth regulator, saves hundreds of hours if you have larger jobs. Think about plant growth regulators. That's money. Vehicle and equipment management certainly is a big portion of it. If you have a program, when do I repair it? When do I replace it? You should know the average length of a life expectancy. You should have that dialed in. You think you're saving money by keeping your older trucks? You're not. You're spending more money by repairing it and just doing antiquated stuff with it, trying to tape it together. Lease and purchase, Harvester Ed, you run into this a couple things, from a cash standpoint, lease, requires less cash up front. Those are some of our clients are using those now. Here's one that Harvester Ed loves. Ed, you want to share a little bit? Productivity meetings?
Yeah, you really should have productivity meetings, just like you have safety meetings and you have less accidents. If you have productivity meetings, you can actually have better productivity, Bill, which would increase gross margin, which would lower your overhead, which would increase net profit. So good idea to do that, even 10 minutes a week.
Yeah, this quality assurance program, I'm a huge advocate. I've done over 20,000 inspections and scoring of jobs in my career over the last 50 years. And it's very effective and ties in with performance reviews. It ties in with marketing, ties in with sales, ties in with getting extra work. If you want to learn more about our quality counts program, we'd be happy to share that with you. Harvester Ed, I think we're doing pretty good here. We're pretty close on time. I know we're rushing through, folks. Hopefully you've written down a couple areas you're going to be looking at. So let's keep going, shall we, Harvester Ed? What's the business?
Yeah, we're going to talk now more about business, more about the business side. We'll review some of the points that we've already talked about. The first is to have a plan. You've got to have a plan so you can establish the priorities. In other words, what do you need to work on? What's the most important thing we need to work on this year? Okay, that's number one. Then your P&L. Bill and I have looked at literally hundreds and hundreds of P&Ls. The problem is many companies are just using the P&L as it comes out of QuickBooks. It's just like in alphabetical order. And if you do that, there's no way you can use that P&L to operate your business because it doesn't really tell you what your gross margin is. We've already talked about how important that is. So you have to get the right P&L in order to make sure that you can use it as an operations and financial tool for your company. We have the mini budget. Our clients get a mini budget, and that's really a way that's very simple. I mean, it's like 10 minutes a week. You can track your labor burden, as Bill talked about already, and then your materials. And what it does is it helps you get a gross margin on each department of your company. Okay. So you may have maintenance, construction, landscape enhancements. Some companies have irrigation, others have snow in the wintertime, but it's important that they're not all grouped together, that they're separated. Okay, and if right now, if your P&L is all one mishmash, you've got to separate it. And so you have you're tracking not only your revenue, but you're also tracking your direct cost from each of these departments. That's really essential.
Harvest Red,
No,
mini budget is one of my favorite tools. And, we have all this fancy software and all these programs, and you can get down to molecular level. But this thing, I can tell the health of an organization. If it's accurate and timely, I can see where the culprit is within, I don't say between 30 and 45 seconds. So really, the exercise I would challenge each and every one of you listening to us right now, if you take your overall revenue and you got to go down through your, some people have to go all over the place on your P&L, find out what your workforce expense is, your payroll for your crew leaders and below, plus their payroll taxes, plus their share of worker compensation, plus the materials. You take that for your whole company, and then subtract that from your revenue, and then take that number divided by your revenue. That's your percent gross margin. If that's under 50, there's a problem. And if you have the mini budget, you can discover where the issue is. Maybe it's enhancements that week. We forgot to bill them all. We forgot the billings. Maybe we miscoded a few things here and there. But you can at least then you go figure out where you're at and where your margins are low. You can go out and have that as a project to complete and go figure that out. So revenue, man, nothing happens without revenue. But listen, gross margin, we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit. We got a couple more coming up here.
okay, so thank you, Bill. So also we have accounts receivable. We talked about that already. Make sure you get your money. Have one person that's tracking that to make sure you get that money in. And as Bill mentioned before, make sure that it's billed timely. Don't wait too late. And if it's a enhancement job, and if it's over a certain amount that you're going to have to determine, make sure you're sending that bill out every week. I know some companies won't allow that, but if they will, do it. You should have budgets, even if just simple basic budgets. I believe you should have a financial meeting once a month, and then at least once a quarter. Then you should compare your actual to budget and do revisions if you need to try to keep it on track. If you're running over budget, then you need to make changes to make sure that at the end of the season, you're still going to make the net profit you expected. Okay, that's very important. And again, we talked about the KPIs. We tracked that already. It's important that you have a list. The 8, remember we talked about already. Those 8, decide you should have all 8 in place and track them and measure them on a regular basis, either weekly or at least monthly. All right, I would say here, you want to negotiate your services with your subcontractors and your vendors and your suppliers. Don't just take for granted or as usual the pricing. See if you can negotiate a better price. As the company gets larger, it begins to buy more and more product. And as it buys that more and more product, now you have the opportunity to negotiate. So remember, you have to measure, you have to know how much product you're buying in order to do that. So just think about where can you save money? I know some new clients of mine, I asked them, hey, when was the last time you put out the bid your insurance? Well, they said, oh, well, we've had the same insurance guy for like the last 10 years, and well, we haven't. Holy cow, that happened to me. And when I put it out to bid, this is incredible. I saved $22,000 the next 12 months just because we had a competitor involved now. Also, many companies now are using virtual support positions. Bill already mentioned Harvester Steve. He works with many companies to virtualize the HR because they can't afford to pay an HR person $85,000 or $100,000, and but they can afford to pay someone like Harvester Steve a minimal amount per month, and he'll act as like a tremendous asset on the HR side. He's the best. Okay, so you're actually bringing the best into your company, who can work with your HR person, or if you don't have an HR person, he can help with that position as well. And others are they're really going virtual with their financials, even with their answering service, who's answering the phone, and many different aspects of the company. So I would suggest to do that. Matter of fact, I've been employing that for years. The lady that books my schedule, and she's been doing it for the last 9 years. I've never met her. I'm going to meet her for the first time next month in Charlotte. But we're like buddies. I've been talking to her so much over all these years, and here she is. She handles my calendar, and I don't have to worry about it. And that's key. That's really makes a difference. Also, we again, as Harvester Bill said, and I am, we are such huge proponents of gross margin because most companies we work with, especially in the beginning, their gross margins are low. I mean, I've measured companies at 37, 36. That's break even, folks. You're not making any money. It's actually costing you money to run. Okay, so that's a tragedy when all you have to do is understand gross margin and then adjust your pricing and your efficiency to accomplish it. Now, here we have this very important line, your HAWS. That's your hourly average wages. You should know that by department. So if you have all of the people working for you in a department, you should add them all up, divide what that number is, how much it costs. It might be, let's say, $18 or $20 an hour. Then you should be adding on your burden onto that, and you should know what your HAWS are, your hourly average wage for each department. And you need that number because that's how you can establish your pricing. Then you're estimating. These are the components of having a proper gross margin is your estimating. And one of the big problems I see with many companies, they say, oh, we got the estimating down. Well, yeah, the time. Okay. But how long has it been since you've measured your production rates? Many of you have computer programs and it's automatic, right? The amount of productivity per square foot, per yard, whatever it is. But do you have accurate productivity rates? Some companies have not adjusted those productivity rates in years. You've got new equipment, new people. You should be adjusting that. That's a big problem. Pricing, you should make sure that you're pricing in the realm that would be competitive, but you're making money. Make sure you execute properly, that you're efficient, and make sure that you're renewing with an increase if you need to. And most companies do, at least a CPI, and that's at least 3% right now. So all of these are extremely important in order to achieve a net profit at the end. Right, Bill?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize a couple things and give you a little pop information that didn't disclose me until 5 years into my career. On estimating, once again, it's really discover know your cost. I'm all about the cost. You start with cost, and you want to get that dialed in. Don't put any fluff in there. Just make sure you got that cost in there and it's accurate with using the most up-to-date HAWS. So now you got your cost. Now you got your pricing, or you need to generate this cost into a price. So the magic formula, and you guys are gonna ask this, what the heck did I say? Divide your costs by the reciprocal of the desired gross margin. What in the heck is that? I don't know what you're talking about. So I asked this question a lot. I say, it costs you $1,000, you want to gross 45%. Most people multiply by 1.45, 1450. That's not 45% gross margin. You divide by the reciprocal, divide by 0.55. That gets you $1,818. That's 45% gross margin. So know your costs, divide it by the reciprocal, the desired gross margin to get to your price.
And Harvester Bill, we go into detail with videos and a downloadable guidebook, all in Harvest Way Academy, that explains that in detail, so you won't get messed up.
That's right. Well, good stuff. We appreciate your time today. I know we went pretty quick. Our goal here was to affirm some areas and come up with 2 or 3 great ideas. You're overachievers. You're going to have 3 things you're going to work on from this. For just regular Joe folks like us, me and Ed, just what's the one thing you're going to work on? One thing I worked on many years ago was getting our job started up at the right. We made it a flawless operation. New job startups was our example many years ago. So this is what we've gone over today. We're going to send you two, Danielle's sitting there. She's going to send you two gifts from us, two tools from the Harvest Way Academy, the culture quiz. We want you to take a quiz, another quiz, and the leader's assessment, not just for you to take, but for the people that you lead. It might be interesting to look at you from their lens. So Danielle, any questions, thoughts, comments we have from anybody that we might be able to entertain here?
Not too much coming in on the chat right now. If anybody was holding out right now, would be a good time to throw your questions into the chat. And I just wanted to reiterate, yeah, we'll be sending out those handouts as well as a recording of the presentation today, because a lot of information to cover here, and there's probably some others in your organizations who could benefit from running through this with you. So look for that email from me later today with all the handouts, the slides, the recording. And I think that will just about do it. You guys made it.
Well,
And if there's any questions, Danielle, if there's any questions, they can just email us directly, and we'll get back to them. And if we have to hop on the phone to do that, we could do that too. No problem at all.
Yeah, for sure. Like we said at the beginning, this was a lot of information, and many of these are 2 to 4 hour seminars on their own. So if there's something that was really interesting that you want to dig deeper into with Harvesters Bill and Ed, please reach out to them, and they'd be happy to take a deep dive with you.
Yeah.
We did have one question come in the last minute. Someone's looking for you to, what was the formula for gross margin and the reciprocal?
Huh.
So you take your cost, whatever it costs you, know your cost, know your cost, know your cost. That's labor and materials, right? And your burden rate. And you determine your cost to do the job, whatever the cost is. Absolutely critical. Know what your cost is. Okay. Then you decide,
give them an example of money.
$1,000. It costs you $1,000 with labor and materials. A job costs you $1,000. So what do you need to do to gross 45%? You take that number and divide it by the reciprocal. If you want to gross 45, you don't divide it by 45, you divide it by 0.55. And that will give you $1,818. Wow, okay. So then you do your job, cost you $1,000, you have $818 left. You take $818, divide that by your sales price, and guess what? That's 44.999, 45% gross margin. Absolutely essential. A lot of people got that mixed up. Don't feel bad. I worked for the largest landscape company in the industry, and they didn't teach us that. It took about 5 years before we learned that one. So so don't feel too bad. I saved you maybe 5 years. So that's how you mark up. Now, not all gross margins are created equal. Depends on the size of the job, depends on the revenue stream. Enhancements should be in the over 50, 55%. Snow, for God's sake, it's 65, 75%. Tree care, 60, 65%. Landscape maintenance, low as 45, high as 55. So those are the rate. Each revenue stream might have different gross margins, but combined overall gross margin, our goal is to get you to 50. 95% of the companies we encounter when we meet them, probably 99%, are in the low 40s or high 30s. Ed?
Yeah, I was going to say, for you folks that are interested, just go to the Harvest Way Academy. Just Google the Harvest Way Academy, or you can find it on our website. And listen, we're giving the offer to try it for $10. I mean, you go to Starbucks and spend that, right? So you could just go on there for $10 and for the first month, okay? After that, it's $35, and it's literally a business university in a website. It's everything that a lot of professors around the country, they teach horticulture, but they tell their students, we're not teaching you business. If you want to learn business, go in the Harvest Way Academy. We've got professors telling their students that. So check it out. And I think if you do, you'll find that there's just an incredible amount of information on there.
Thanks again, Team Engine. Really appreciate you having us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. And we'll see you guys at the next one. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye now.